The head, the tail, the whole damn thing.
Welcome once again to The Head, the Tail, the Whole Damn Thing, with industry professionals Mike D. McCarty and James Knight. I'm your announcer, Tyler Patton. This episode reflects The Omen and The First Omen. A little confusing because The Omen was the first one and then later was The First Omen. Quick anecdote is I went to go see The Omen when it first came out with my father at the Directors Guild Father-Son Night, which is kind of funny if you know the film. Anyway, it was quite traumatic and scarred me for life. All me and my friends did was look for sixes in our hairlines. Anyway, sorry. And go ahead, boys.
Ave Satani Biblios.
Oh, Merry Christmas.
Oh, how was the end of the shoot today? Everything go all right? Day on
Today
set?
today was easy. Yeah, today was good. I'm on set again for another birthing rig, this time on a show called The Pit, which premieres in January on Max. It's a cool emergency room drama show.
Birthing, eh?
Oh yeah.
You don't say.
Indeed.
If only there was some way to get from that to today's films.
I don't understand. What do you mean?
Look at me, Damien. It's all for you.
And that was the #1 hit, Ave Satani. All for you, Damien. Here we go. Ave Satani. Oh, The Omen. Of course, we're talking about The Omen.
The Omen.
And The First Omen.
The original Omen and The First Omen.
The First Omen with Gregory Peck. And directed by Richard Donner.
No, that's the original Omen.
Yes.
With Gregory Peck, directed by Richard Donner. The First Omen is not the First Omen. It's actually like the Fifth Omen, but it is the First Omen nonetheless.
I think in my mind there's only 2 omens now. There's the First Omen and then The Omen, which now is the Second Omen. And after that, I don't know.
You don't like Damien Omen 2?
You know, I haven't seen Damien Omen 2 in many years.
Okay. I mean, it's got some moments in it. It's got some good classic moments in it.
But it certainly has got to beat that, what was that TV movie? Omen 3? Wasn't that a TV movie?
No. Omen 3's not a TV movie. Maybe you saw it on TV, all edited.
Or is
with
Omen
Sam
4?
Neill?
Is Omen 4 a TV movie? I know at some point they made a TV movie, Omen.
Yeah, that might be a TV movie. The Awakening, I think it's called.
Omen 3 is like the final conflict or something?
Exactly.
Yeah, you gotta love it when they call a sequel like The Final Something or like The Last Battle. And then they're like, except for this part.
Yeah, isn't Friday the 13th for the final chapter?
Boy.
Pretty much just the beginning. Yeah. So which one are we doing first?
Ironically, The Omen.
Yes, we'll do The Omen first, which is the original 1976 Omen.
Yeah, and we don't have to worry about spoiling that. We don't have to worry about spoiling it, because when we go to The First Omen, of course, as usual, we will do the spoiler-free portion, and then we'll go to the lobby and come back and spoil everything about it. But you have the trailer.
I do. I have the trailer for both, actually. And do you want to watch the trailer for The First Omen? It's one of those, like, it's got that fantastic fucking narrator voice that I wish I could do. I mean, both of us get close to it, but neither one of us can nail this voice, I don't think.
Let's hear it.
For generations, the Thorns have been a family of tremendous wealth, position, and power. The perfect marriage of Ambassador Robert Thorne and his wife, Catherine, was fulfilled by the birth of their son, Damien. And then, when the child was 5 years old, something terrible happened.
Nice. Weird
I love the
synthesizer freak out.
Yeah. Music's so good.
And then it happened again.
The baboon bite.
Yeah.
Was it an accident?
Oh.
Was it murder? Was it a coincidence? Or was it an omen?
Look at me, Damien.
An omen.
It's all for you.
It's all for you, Damien.
20th Century Fox presents a film of psychological suspense
Mime clown.
about an occurrence of earth-shaking importance. Gregory Peck, Lee Remick, The Omen.
I was at the hospital, Mr. Thorne, the night your son was born. I saw its mother.
I have fears. I've fears.
What kind of fears?
Its mother, Mr. Thorne.
It's on my wife.
Its mother.
What is it you're trying to say?
His mother was a...
This is not a human child.
Bugenhagen rocks.
Oh.
Make no mistake.
There are those who will die for him.
There are those who would kill for him. Say it.
There are those who will kill for him.
Yeah.
Who is he? What does he want? Where did he come from? And can he be stopped?
Yeah.
Ooh,
this is a
lightning.
pretty nice little trailer
Gregory
they
Peck.
did.
And
It's
Remick.
great.
The Omen. If this is the truth, where does it end?
Pretty.
I
Pretty
think
good.
it ended in a Canadian TV movie, unfortunately. Yeah. Oh, man. 1976's The Omen.
Yeah.
Directed by, I had forgotten, Richard Donner.
Yeah. A younger Richard Donner.
The man who would give us Superman and Lethal Weapon and The Goonies
Yeah. Classics.
later in his career. Oh, gosh. Fantastic director. And
Absolutely.
I had no idea until I saw his name pop up at the beginning of the credits. Hell yeah.
Yeah. This movie is one of those, like, everyone in it is top quality.
Oh,
they don't,
yes.
They don't make movies like this very often.
I think this movie is part of the it's certainly like the horror zeitgeist, if not like just the whole cultural zeitgeist. You take this one, late 60s and 70s, you get late 60s Rosemary's Baby, going into The Exorcist shortly thereafter, and The Omen, and those three movies set the tone for how I think we all think of the Antichrist, and
Absolutely.
to some degree the devil and demonic possession. Like, there were the ways that I think culture thought about those things before those movies, and how successful those movies were, and afterwards it just changed everyone's perceptions about it. Certainly in horror circles, as all three of those movies have been remade or reconfigured or repackaged in some other way. But
Never successfully. Until, more recently, I'll say.
Yeah. No, rarely successfully. Rarely can they hold the candle to those originals. But this one, of course, you said everybody's top shelf in this. We got Gregory Peck, who's
Lee Remick.
Gregory Peck, whose brand is like integrity, right?
Yeah.
This is Atticus frickin' Finch we're talking about.
Yeah.
Gregory Peck made a career out of being like upright, honest, that sort of guy who you believe wholeheartedly has his heart in the right place. So, and Lee Remick, and then a fantastic performance by Billy Whitelaw.
Oh,
who plays the governess in this.
Mm-hmm. She's awesome.
Great casting in this. You cast the right actor, and then you really don't have to do much after that, because she was just so naturally creepy, stern-looking. She just brings that creep factor. But before we dive into this, I do want to say, as is part of our sort of family lore, I talked about it on a previous episode, I think.
Yeah.
That you showed me this movie way, way too young. Like I was like
I still
5 years old.
It.
Oh man, I do. But there's only a couple things that I remember from seeing it back then. The first thing, one thing is the dogs. I do remember the dogs in it. The number one thing about this movie that I remember freaking me out as a kid, and still when I hear it, is that music.
Oh, yeah.
It's that Jerry Goldsmith score.
Won an Oscar for it.
He did win an Oscar for it, and rightfully so. That satanic chorus is chilling.
It is.
And I've always been sensitive to like movie scores and things like that, but this one is one for the ages. He deserved the Oscar for this. And I also noticed that that Ave Satani song was nominated for Best Song, which I find kind of hilarious because it's like the 77 Oscars, right? And I just can imagine like Faye Dunaway up there, saying like, and the award for Best Original Song goes to Hail Satan, because that's essentially what Ave Satani means.
Yeah,
he just created a song called Hail Satan.
I translated the lyrics. They're pretty simple. Ave, obviously, hail. So the lyrics, they go, hail the Antichrist, hail Satan, the flesh we eat, the blood we drink, Satan, raise the body of Satan. Those are the lyrics.
Okay. I think the music is doing actually a lot of the heavy lifting in this movie in terms of making it creepy. But what do you think? Talk to me about The Omen. What's good? What do you like about this?
When I first saw The Omen, I was pretty young, not as young as you. And I saw it before I saw The Exorcist, and I actually think this is a scarier movie than The Exorcist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a bold statement.
Yeah. At least it was impressioned upon me on my young age. And I don't remember how young I was, but probably like, let's see, if it came out in 76, it came out when I was 8. I probably didn't see it for a few years until it was like on TV. So maybe not 10 or 12 or, somewhere, somewhere around then would have been when I saw it. And I just think it's supremely creepy. And honestly, it's the music. Now, in Exorcist, you've got Tubular Bells, which is a great
also
cut.
A classic horror theme. I think it goes beyond just being a horror theme, but I can't hear Tubular Bells without freaking out a little bit.
No, of course not. But this, now, of course, I love the soundtrack, and I've owned it in many forms. Have you ever had sex to the Omen soundtrack? I'm asking for a friend.
Only once on June 6th at 6 in the morning.
Yeah. If you want to have some really creepy sex, do it to the soundtrack. Put the candles out. You'll be like, I just don't. I feel like this is wrong.
Because you might be right. I think that is wrong.
Yeah.
Were you pressured into doing that, or was that your idea?
Honestly, it was my idea. I feel bad for the other party.
Yeah, I do too.
What do you want to do?
I would. We're not talking about The Exorcist, but I would wholeheartedly disagree with you that this is a scarier movie than The Exorcist. I do think the music is scarier. Like I said, the creep factor on that music is 10 plus for me.
Yeah.
That one goes to 11.
Absolutely.
But to me, Exorcist has more, like there are images from The Exorcist, like the Pazuzu devil face and just Reagan herself as she's getting like all beat up with the holy water and stuff that
the flash
me
cuts
out.
of Captain Howdy in black and white.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That stuff freak me out more. Because the Omen it has its moments, to be sure, but it's pretty subdued most of the time. And that's what I was saying. The music does a lot of the heavy lifting. If it wasn't for that Jerry Goldsmith score, it wouldn't be nearly as scary, you know? But, I mean, Donner has directed a suspenseful movie, and it's got some great mysteries that unfold. And there's some absolutely top-notch kills in this.
Yeah. I mean, the David Warner glass truck, I mean, that's one of my favorite kills of all time.
Yeah, should we work our way up to that one?
Sure, yeah. So what I really like about this movie, I think it's a solid script. I think it's great storytelling. It's crafted in a really well-built manner from the ground up. You know, it opens with obviously he loses his wife, or his wife and him lose their son, but she doesn't know, and then the priest comes and he's like, The
very first line of the movie is, "The child is dead."
Yeah.
You see Gregory Peck in a car going through Rome, and there's like a voiceover of somebody telling him that his child has died.
Yeah, and they say your wife doesn't need to know, you can adopt, and that's when we get the old shady priest two-step, where they're pulling the bottom card from the deck.
It's interesting too, because like I said, Gregory Peck is like an actor whose brand is integrity, and the very first thing he does in this movie is he partakes in like a colossal lie on his wife.
Yeah.
Like, just switch the babies, she'll never have to know. Like, whoa, that's intense. I think a lot of this movie wouldn't work nearly as well if it weren't for his performance. Because he is so locked in and truthful about everything. I mean, his character goes through some pretty intense moments.
Him as an actor, as a human being, went through some pretty intense moments right before this film started. In fact,
I don't know anything about that.
The reason he took this movie was because he wanted to lose himself in some work for a while. And this is kind of a weird movie to take, but his son committed suicide.
Oh, no kidding. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oof.
And, he was in a bad way, and then decided to take this movie to sort of lose himself in his work. It's a weird gig to take. I would have taken a comedy.
Yeah.
Gregory Peck, not necessarily known for his comedies. He's known for talking through his teeth, right? He's always like, "I will not kill the boy." He's grunting and he's talking with his teeth.
One eyebrow perpetually arched.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Some people deal with heavy. You know,
sure.
They find that kind of equalizes the pressure some way. So maybe he's like that. But it is some sensitive subject matter to try and handle after a personal tragedy like that, to be sure.
Yeah, but the first great kill is obviously the nanny.
Oh yeah.
And I think the first couple of times I watched this movie, I thought that she was a handler for Damien. And I was like, why does she kill herself? It doesn't make sense. But she's not. She's the regular nanny. She's like
the governess, right?
Yeah. And she sees a Rottweiler, and the Rottweiler just standing there looking at her. Obviously, some satanic messages pass, into her head.
Weird synth music, because Satan's a real Alan Parsons fan, I guess.
Absolutely.
Wow. Look at me, Damien. It's all for you.
And it's all for Damien.
There's the smash as she hangs herself, and the governess Mary pops in right through the window.
Yeah. It's pretty great. And did you know that was Jack Palance's daughter, Holly?
It sounds like the beginning of a joke. No, I didn't know it's Jack Palance's daughter, Holly.
I wish I had something funny to say to that. But no, it is actually Jack Palance's daughter, Holly Palance. And her character doesn't have a name. Her character is Nanny. But you hear Lee Remick call her Holly. This has been a Hollywood Minute.
There was a subtle little line in that party sequence, too, where David Warner, who's playing the photographer, whose character will appear frequently throughout the Omen, he says something about, like, I'm just waiting for him to get canonized. Is this the heir to the Thorn fortune, or Jesus Christ himself?
Ha-ha!
I didn't.
Nice.
I didn't actually catch that line until I watched it the second time. So it's like, oh, there's little things threaded throughout this script. It's really a tightly written script too. I like it. It's got some great mysteries and twists and turns in it.
Yeah, written by David Seltzer and Harvey Bernard. You know, one of the weird things, a lot of people talk about the creepy things because this is a movie that deals with Satan and evil. There is a lot of talk about the movie being cursed. And there are so many different things that happened. Like, for example, when Gregory Peck flew over to the UK on the plane, his plane was hit by lightning.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now, it didn't damage the plane. Lightning occasionally hits planes. It's a thing.
Sure.
And it doesn't necessarily bring them down, but it freaks everybody out. So his plane is hit by lightning. David Seltzer's plane is hit by lightning like a week later. Mace Neufeld's plane is hit by lightning.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Maybe choose a different route.
Yeah.
Make sure your tray tables are up. We're passing through the Bermuda Triangle on our way to Great Britain. Sure, nothing will happen, as has happened to the previous two planes.
Oh, man. And Harvey Bernard, in Rome, while they're on the ground, nearly struck by lightning.
Wow.
Yeah. How weird is that? 4 lightning incidents, all in this one movie, all in the course of like a year. That is astounding.
That's like, I think Jim Caviezel was struck by lightning when he was doing Passion of the Christ.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes. That is also true.
Don't mess with the Jesus.
No, my friend. There was a second time, not a lightning incident, but Gregory Peck was supposed to charter a plane to do one of the action sequences. They were flying over, and it was probably the car thing or something like that, or they were shooting one of the sequences in the movie.
Okay.
And they ended up canceling the shoot or changing the shoot day, and he didn't take the plane. So someone else took that chartered plane, and it crashed. Killed everybody on board.
No way.
Yeah, and one of the weird things about it is when it crashed into a car on the ground because it took off, hit a flock of birds, crashed into a car on the ground. The people in the car on the ground were the pilot's family.
No way.
Yes.
What? Where are you getting this? Where's this information coming from?
This has been a creepy Hollywood Minute.
No kidding.
Yeah. And it doesn't end there.
Oh, no, wait. But this is all during the filming of the movie?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
All during the filming of the movie.
How were people not freaking out about all this stuff on set?
Another thing that happened during the filming of the movie, and I don't necessarily say I wouldn't put this under the realm of the Omen curse, as it were. But the hotel that Mace Neufeld and Richard Donner were staying at, I believe it was the day after they left, there was an IRA bombing attack at the hotel.
Oh, Jesus.
And there was this was at a time in the UK when the IRA was like, we're doing our thing, and we're doing it a lot. There was another incident where a restaurant that they were going to ended up getting blown up before they were going to it.
Jesus, these guys are like turning left and right with tragedies all abound.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
And one of the last things I'll say about the curse. Yeah, I know. But wait, there's more. You want to talk about Satan? We've got Satan out the wazoo.
Yeah.
Act now, and I'll tell you all about the glass truck incident. Now, it was one of the effects guys that was partially responsible for the glass truck incident that takes the hat off of, David Warner. It was after the filming of this movie, he went on to work on A Bridge Too Far shortly thereafter. And while he was on A Bridge Too Far, he had his fiancée in the car, and they had a car accident.
Is she decapitated?
Yes.
Oh my God, you're kidding me.
No, she was decapitated. Now,
holy shit.
One of the weirder things about this is, yeah, I know, it's already fucking weird. But wait, there's more. She was decapitated. He was hurt, but not terribly hurt. When he sort of like came to, the first thing he saw was a sign for a town called Omen, Omenn, and it said 66.6 kilometers.
No way.
Yes,
No
that's what
way.
they say.
No way.
That's what they say.
That's too good of a cherry on the top of that. I believe
have
she
to
was
agree.
decapitated. No,
Yeah.
there's no way.
Yeah, but wait, there's more.
Oh, Jesus Christ, for real?
It was Friday the 13th.
Oh, okay, that I believe.
Yeah.
That I believe. That coincidence is within the realm of possibility. But, Omen, 66.6 kilometers. There's no way. How terrible, though.
I mean, it's awful. It's awful.
To be in the car with someone with such a gruesome accident like that. Fuck, you'd never get over that shit. I don't think.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
So that is the Curse of the Omen, which brings me to my own little story.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
Continue.
Yeah. I worked on Annabelle, right? And I got to paint a bunch of the dolls. The guy that made the original doll, he painted the first one. I painted all the successive dolls after that when I worked for K&B at the time. I went on set with Norman Cabrera, and we did the demon makeup. That is like an all black, it's like black as night and horns, and it's
I know
really
what you're talking
cool.
about.
Yeah. And we had that one sequence where I think I sent you the photo. It might even be on my Instagram. I'll put it on the show's Instagram for sure, where the baby disappears, and it's the demon's got the baby, and we were on set, and they were just like, "What are you gonna? Can we just put the baby in the demon's arms?" And I mean, he's got contacts in, he can't really fucking see, and we're just like, okay. And the nanny's standing there, and we all feel like assholes. With the cameras running and this demon's in the corner hiding in the blackness, and we just run up and stick the baby in his hands, and then we're hoping, don't drop the baby, because he's got these gloves with really long, flimsy fingers on the end, and he's blind, and it's just, we're like, okay, here you go, you've got the baby, okay, you got it, okay, back off, rolling, okay, and the baby's screaming and crying the whole time. And I went up to go help to retrieve the baby, but I had to take a photo first, and the photo is on the Instagram.
I've seen that photo. That photo.
Yeah.
And I thought the worst thing that you could have done to a child was to show them the movie The Omen at age 5. But no, you had to go and outdo yourself, didn't you? I did a full demon makeup.
At age 6 months. Yeah. I wonder what that child is doing now. Satani. But what I was going to say about my own Omen cursed creepy story is we were shooting in this really creepy apartment building in downtown Los Angeles. And when we brought him to set in the makeup, there was a guy standing in the hallway. And as we were coming around the corner, we hear this guy, because they know we're bringing the demon to set. Everyone's like, okay, demon is stepping in. So everyone knows we're on our way with the demon. And as we crossed the threshold in this hallway and came around, this guy says, I want to see the devil. And a light fixture from the ceiling falls and hits him in the head and smashes, and it cuts him. And the paramedics had to be called up. And the guy ended up being okay, but just the fact that he said, I want to see the devil, we come around the corner with the demon, and the light fixture falls and hits him in the head. And everyone was like, oh, that's pretty creepy, and that's pretty coincidental, and we all started talking about the Omen curses and all that kind of shit. Good stuff. This has been another Hollywood Minute.
And they had to take that guy to the hospital. And on the way there, the ambulance was struck by lightning. And then it rammed in to the car full of the pilot's family. And they were all decapitated.
And the guy's name was Damien.
Look at me, Damien.
It's amazing we can talk about a movie like this and then make it lighthearted.
We got to. No, there's plenty to love about this film. And we touched on her a little bit too, but Billy Whitelaw, who plays Mrs. Blaylock. After the nanny, hangs herself and goes crashing through the window, you get the new governess. She is terrific. She is absolutely chilling in this movie. And something I found out about her, digging around her IMDb, is that she is also the voice of Ogra in The Dark Crystal.
Really?
Like the one-eyed hermit lady. Yeah, that is also Billy Whitelaw.
Nice.
So I was, as a nerd who really likes The Dark Crystal, I was fucking tickled to find that out. Not only is she kind of the most chilling thing or presence in The Omen, but she's also in one of my favorite childhood movies.
Oh, shit. I forgot.
Is there more curse?
Yes, there is. Yeah.
Jesus.
There's a trainer that was involved in the baboon scene. The next day was attacked and killed by a lion. Yeah.
Was he the animal handler in The Happening? Because I think we saw that. Isn't that what happened to that guy?
Yes, absolutely.
Killed by a lion? Jesus.
Yeah.
Some
sources say tiger, but I like lion. That sounds good. I've heard both. Like, I've researched the story. Some say lion, some say tiger. Some say it was the next day. Some say it was a couple of days later.
Did anyone like associated with the Omen curse just die of like a heart attack, or like, well, he had diabetes for a while and his kidneys failed on? Did anyone just have that? They're all like struck by lightning, decapitated, eaten by a lion. Does anyone just go out like normally?
Maybe by now. The Omen curse continues. Oh, hell yeah.
Well, it's an interesting thing about that baboon scene, and harkening back to what I was talking about earlier about Jerry Goldsmith's score, is that this is one of those moments where the music is what is making this really frightening.
Yeah.
At least to me when I was watching it, because I thought, they're safely in the car. The baboons are going crazy. They're climbing on the car. Lee Remick and Harvey Stevens, I think that's the little boy who plays Damien, they're freaking out in the car.
She's really freaking out, too.
But there's
they said she was genuinely fucking scared and screaming.
Because I guess the baboons are all over the car. But it's not particularly, the baboons aren't killing each other or breaking through the windows. Or if you didn't have that Jerry Goldsmith score under this, I don't think that scene would be nearly as powerful as it is. Sure. You could say that about all music and all movies and stuff. I just think it's testament to how well that Jerry Goldsmith score is working, because I found there to be a lot of times in this movie where I was like, there's no particular image that's frightening me from this, or there's nothing I find particularly scary, except that music is giving me goosebumps.
Yeah. You know how they got the baboons to go crazy? They didn't feed them. Yeah. they let them go hungry for like a day, right? Because they get fed in the morning. They didn't feed them. They put food all over the top of the car. And they put a baby baboon inside the car with a handler.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, no wonder she was freaking out in the car then.
Yeah.
There's a baby baboon in the car.
Yeah. And apparently they weren't agitated enough, so they took the alpha and put him in the car as well. And the baboons went apeshit. Literally.
Wow.
This has been another odd Hollywood minute.
And then afterwards, they decapitated that baboon.
That's
because
right.
They just wanted to keep bringing it back around. The Dark Lord must be pleased with another sacrifice.
The other baboons were struck by lightning, as was the lion that bit the man. Or was it a tiger?
Everybody's struck by lightning. And in the background, Richard Donner's just pedaling a bike with a big Tesla coil on the back. Like, who's next? Gotta keep the cast on their toes.
When you said everybody was struck by lightning, I was thinking everybody was kung fu fighting.
Yeah, it works.
Everybody were fast was struck lightning.
By lightning. So we've got the nanny going through the window, and then of course Father Brennan, who has come in to warn Gregory Peck's character, warn Ambassador Robert Thorne that he knows where his son comes from, and essentially that the prophecy is coming true, that his son is the Antichrist.
Yep.
And one thing I appreciate about the Omen and this script is that people come up and they say goofy shit like that, and the protagonist's first reaction is, "You're crazy. Get the hell away from me."
Yeah.
You know, they're not instantly convinced by this line of arcane horseshit that the person is putting forth.
Even when he starts to believe it, he again doesn't believe it.
Yeah.
Like when Bugenhagen towards the end is like giving him all the daggers and telling him what he's got to do. He's seen a lot of shit up to that point, and he's starting to buy into it, and then he goes outside and he's like, "No, I cannot kill the boy."
Wants me to stab him with these daggers. Yeah, well, I mean, we can get into that. At this point, Damien is 5 years old.
Yeah.
He's right around the age that your kids should watch The Omen, I guess. Damien's 5 years old, and, you know, you got to understand that, like, up until this point, he's just been kind of a regular kid that they've raised and loved like their son. You know, Richard Donner does like kind of a photo montage of like those early years.
Yes,
like this sweet little photo montage so he can just skip ahead to when the weird stuff starts happening. So yeah, again, to Gregory Peck's credit, I thought like, yeah, of course you couldn't just like kill your son because some fucking wacko says you're supposed to. No matter what you've seen up to this point, it's still not going to be an easy decision. But we were talking about Father Brennan, and we were also talking about getting struck by lightning a lot. Here you have one of the most overt supernatural moments of the whole movie. A storm gets conjured out of nowhere, lightning's hitting the trees, hitting the fences, bouncing all around him. And then he goes and gets impaled by it's the lightning rod on top of the church.
Yeah, or some kind of church spire rod.
Yeah, breaks off and impales him into the ground.
Matching the photo that David Warner took.
Yeah, well, and also going to be a great front page photo for the newspaper.
Yeah.
Later, a few scenes later, Gregory Peck's gonna like find a newspaper, like something about the newspaper, and he like unfolds it, and the front page cover is the priest impaled. I thought, who approved that?
Yeah.
Who was like, that's front page news, kids. Look at that. This'll sell some copies.
What do we got today, Sally? He's chomping on a cigar. Well, we've got this really disturbing photo of a priest that was impaled. Let's run it.
Well, we're going to go with the strike the biscuit factory, but if you'd rather.
Nobody likes biscuits these days. Run the dead priest.
Yes, and as you were saying, matches the photo that Jennings, played by David Warner, a photographer who happened to be at the birthday party and took pictures of the nanny who would hang herself, and he's been noticing all these weird things, right, in the photo that are matching up exactly with the way that the people are dying. And I loved this part of the movie, just as like another one of the twists in the story, that he contacts Gregory Peck. They got these great dark room scenes where he's developing the stuff and sort of putting this odd mystery together. And then they go into Father Brennan's like room. He's got like some sort of hotel room or hostel room or something.
Yeah.
Where he's glued pages of the Bible all over the walls and nailed up like 47 crosses. And they're talking, and that's when like the prophecy starts coming out a little bit more about the Antichrist. They're connecting it to Damien. But I love that little mystery element of this. I think that's a really cool part of this movie that just sort of helps ratchet up the creepiness without a lot of gore or scares or anything like that. It's just sort of slow revelations, if you will, that the characters are having.
Well played. And Father Brennan had a 666 birthmark on him, too.
Yeah.
This is when we learn that not only does, the Antichrist have it, but followers of the Antichrist, when they become a follower, which this is a part that's sort of brought up in the book, the tattoo or the birthmark sort of appears. When they take the communion and decide that's what they're going to do, the birthmark just appears on their body. So he had long ago decided he was going to do that, but his character is actually dying of cancer, and then he's trying to right the wrongs, even though he knows he's sort of started everything down this path.
Yeah. Very, very cool character. Very interesting. I did think in the beginning, his first scene with Gregory Peck comes to his office and he's like, "You must drink his blood. You must eat his body." Wow, man, you need to back up a couple steps right now because he just comes at him talking the most crazy Catholic shit.
And those are the lyrics from the fucking song.
Yeah, well, I mean, not that different than just Catholic Mass, you know? Drink his blood, eat his body.
Yeah. That was legit pretty good shit.
But it's also in that scene where they're in his hotel room with the Bible pages that Jennings, the photographer, reveals that he accidentally, he took a picture of himself and sees that same line, which would end up culminating in one of the best kills in any horror movie. But before we get to that, we should talk about that scene in the cemetery with the Rottweilers.
Sure. That's another thing with the curse.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the stuntman that was playing Gregory Peck's, stuntman, seriously attacked by those fucking dogs. They were biting through the protective gear and fucking him up, and he got wounded in that scene.
We haven't really talked about, anything bad in this movie or what doesn't work, but I will say I find Rottweilers to be a really weird choice for this movie.
What would you choose as a demonic dog?
I don't know. I don't know if I would have chose all the same breed of a dog or something, or just gone for like a bunch of big haggard-looking mutts or a pack of dogs. I mean, they will say in this, like, Damien was born of a jackal. Well, obviously they probably can't get, like, jackals in there.
I mean, that would have been cool.
It would have made a lot more sense. I've just always found, like, because it's the Rottweilers here when they're in Italy trying to uncover the mystery of Damien's birth. And it's also a Rottweiler at his house that eyes the first nanny, and then Mrs. Blaylock, the second governess, she brings one into the house.
Yeah. I guess if it was a jackal, it really wouldn't have played too well if Mrs. Blaylock brought it into the house. Is that a jackal?
It doesn't play well anyway, because like he comes in, the Rottweiler stands up and is growling.
Yeah.
And he's like, "What is that dog doing here?" And she's like, "Oh, I found it outside and I just brought it in. I thought it could be a watchdog for us." And I thought, you brought a stray Rottweiler into the house and we're like, yeah, let's put it in the kids' room.
Yeah.
Like, that's maybe...
He's really taken a liking to it.
And to the credit of the script, again, he's like, "No, get the dog out of here. If I want a dog, I'll pick out a dog myself." And I was like, bravo. Yes, that's exactly what you say. You're not bringing a stray fucking man-eating dog into the house and putting it in the nursery.
Yeah. When I was watching
those dogs are vicious, man. Those dogs in that cemetery scene, when Jennings and Thorne, they find the gravesite of Damien's mother and they loosen the gravestone, they open it up and they see the jackal skeleton. And then next to it is Bambino Schiani. He's thinking, like, that's my son, because his son, they told him his son was stillborn. And they crack that one open. They see the little baby skeleton whose skull has been bashed in.
They murdered my boy.
Chilling moment. Definitely a chilling moment. And this is when those Rottweilers come. And I got to tell you, I don't know if any of the clips of the stuntman getting hurt are in the movie, but those dogs look like
I'm pretty sure they are.
Tearing them apart, man.
Yeah.
Fearsome dogs, which they narrowly escape jumping over the fence.
The spiked
kind of
fence.
Impaled on it?
Yeah.
It's hard to tell. Arm. Yeah, it like goes through his coat, and there's a lot of that like really bright red blood in there.
Yeah, that's definitely piercing some flesh. And that's always been like a fear of mine with those, probably because of this movie. And I remember when I saw this as a kid, this was one of those scenes that really stood out. Like, oh my God, his mother was a jackal? What? Like that was disturbing. The dogs going crazy, him getting caught on the fence and getting his arm impaled. It was all pretty terrifying when I was a youngster.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you were like 12? Suck it up. I was 5 years old, you son of a bitch. Because this is one of the things I remember is those dogs, for sure.
You're welcome. Look what we're doing now. Everything's all better.
So he's got the information about they killed his son, and the kid he's raising might be the Antichrist. Cut back to his wife who's in the hospital because she took that tumble off the balcony.
Yeah. That's a good one, too. You know how they did it, right?
I don't. It's a really interesting looking effect. Mm-hmm. How'd they do it? Because I watched it twice, and both times it's really well shot. It's like a suspenseful little moment. Damien comes out of his room on a tricycle.
Yeah.
He's going down the hallway, and his mom is kind of standing on a table, kind of adjusting like a hanging plant, and he bumps his tricycle into the table, and she goes over the edge of the balcony.
Yeah. And is holding on for a second, like, Damien, help! And then, the look in her eyes. And you see that the fish bowl, too, that was on the thing that goes off in slow motion and drops down and hits the floor. You realize she's like second story, and she's going to fall and break her neck or something.
Yeah.
And she actually was supposed to take a stunt fall in that scene, but because of all the curse stuff that had been happening, she was like, there's no way I'm doing this.
Good thinking, Lee Remick. Good thinking.
So they invented a way to do the shot, and what they did is they mocked up a wall to look like the floor and glued pieces of the broken glass from the fishbowl to it. Yeah, and put 2 prop fish up there as well, secured to the floor. They put her on a dolly track.
Sure.
With a little bit of a Lazy Susan on it.
Sure.
So she's got her arm raised, and she's pointed towards camera. And as they push her towards the wall, looking like a floor, they rotate her so that she falls face first onto it.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's a really stylized looking fall, but it didn't look fake at all.
No,
it just looked like
looks very Hitchcock.
It does. There's something odd about it, but it doesn't look phony to me, at least. Not like sometimes they use like a blue screen or something like that. Especially with the fishbowl going in slow motion beforehand.
Yeah,
I think that sets up the sort of eeriness of that fall. It's a good suspenseful little moment.
Absolutely.
But it leads me to talk about one of the things that maybe I don't like so much about this movie or I thought I was missing maybe a little bit. And it has to do with her character. Like, you don't ever see Damien do anything malevolent in this movie.
No, he just smiles.
At the very, very, very end. You know? Now, like, sure, he freaks out when they're taking him to the church and stuff. His tricycle, he's sort of spinning around in the room, and then the governess opens the door, and he goes out in the hallway, and he bumps into her, and she's hanging off the edge there, and he's kind of looking at her. He's not helping her necessarily. I didn't know if it was like Donner's intention to purposefully keep the kid from doing anything that was deliberately malevolent, so that when you get to the end moment, you feel conflicted, maybe as an audience member, like, is this right? Should you be trying to kill this kid?
Yeah.
Because like
kill the boy.
In the moment with the baboons, like, he's freaking out in the car too. It's not like he's huddled over in the corner like smiling at her as the baboons are going crazy,
If it was made today, they would have done something like that.
Well, here's the thing. Ultimately, for Lee Remick's character, she never sees the kid necessarily acting in any sort of odd way. She talks to Gregory Peck like, there's some odd things happening, and I've got to see a psychiatrist. And then the psychiatrist reports to us like, she thinks that the boy is evil, and she thinks that there's something, wrong, and that he's trying to harm her. But like, we don't actually ever see that in the movie. We don't see her take note of anything that the kid is doing, nor is the kid ever really doing anything. There's just like a bunch of stuff that happens. If I'm gonna mark points off of the Omen, which is kind of a bold thing to do because I do think it's such a great movie. That's one thing I wish could have been a little bit fleshed out with her. I wish they had done that, found a way to get her to just have a few moments. You know, like even when they're at the zoo and all the giraffes suddenly run away from Damien, she's just like, huh. And then she gives him a kiss and picks him up and she's like, how about let's go see the monkeys, you know? She doesn't sit there and look at him and be like, what is up with this kid?
Yeah,
you know, she never questions it on screen that we can see.
No, he does, but she never does.
Yeah. They give him those opportunities, but they don't ever give her the same kind of thing. And ultimately, she's the one that kind of goes crazy. She's the one that takes the tumble off the balcony, and then when she's in the hospital, enter the governess, and she tosses her out the window of the hospital.
Yeah. That's
through the ambulance.
That's a great stunt fall, too.
Oh, great Jack-in-the-Box moment, too, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
She goes through the roof of the ambulance, and the camera tracks it down, and then the doors of the ambulance pop open, and there she is, like, wow.
Yeah. That's a really good moment. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which brings us to the end. Gregory Peck, he's got the daggers.
You can't go there yet because you didn't actually talk about the glass kill.
Oh, you're right.
Because if you've got insights, into this one, that's a slick kill. It still looks great today. It's still shot well. Mm-hmm. Jennings is picking up some daggers in like an alleyway, and the parking brake of a truck gets dislodged. This flatbed comes screaming down at him, and then sort of hits a bump, and the contents of the back of the flatbed come sliding out.
Sheet plane of glass, and it's a posed dummy with a head that's just sitting on top of it, and there's like a blood cannon inside, or blood tube inside that they're squirting. So the moment that the glass hits it, the head tumbles on top of the glass, and the body is falling beneath the glass as it's all sort of coming apart and shattering. And I know that they edited it that way. Like, they used so many cameras, right? They used like 3 or 4 different cameras on it from different angles, because people in the audience, they're going to cover their eye when this happens, because they think it's just going to happen for a split second, and then they're going to be able to look again. But when they look again, it's going to be another camera angle, and then another camera angle, and then another camera angle. So even if you closed your eyes for a long time, you're still going to fucking see it.
Yeah.
And that is kind of brilliance in editing.
It's delightful. It really still works very well, Yeah. They don't hang on any one camera angle for too long. You see the head come off the shoulders, tumble on the pane glass. Then I think they cut to behind it, and that pane of glass that slides out of the truck actually goes through a window. So there's more shattering glass, and there's stuff getting knocked over and tumbling around. And then at the very end, you see the decapitated head come to rest, but you see it in the reflection of one of the pieces of broken glass.
Yeah.
So it's
masterful from beginning to end.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a great way to mask the practical effect even further by revealing it in the sort of reflection of that window. It's almost like shooting it through a filter, where you might be able to look at that dummy head and see that it's clearly not a real human head.
Sure.
But because you see it in the reflection of that, it lets you believe it.
Yeah,
just a little bit more.
It kills that uncanny valley bit of it being an obviously fake head.
It's the best kill in this movie. It's the most memorable one.
Yeah.
And it's good that they edit it that way, because you better not hide your eyes for that. You better at least be taking home a little of that one.
Yeah, and you do. I don't think there's any way anyone could have avoided seeing that.
Yeah.
So good. So then we get to the end.
Yeah.
And now he believes, and he's got to do the right thing. I must kill the boy.
He's got the daggers of Megiddo.
He's got the daggers, and Bugenhagen gave him like, you have to use this first one, and this one is to extinguish the life, and then you got to use this one as like, listen, man, can I just stab him once with like one dagger or something, or a couple of times with the one dagger? But no, there's like 6 or 7 of them.
You have to take him to hallowed ground.
Yeah.
It must be hallowed ground. And this one kills the life, but this one kills the spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
This one will vanquish his gambling debt. This one over here will take care of his MasterCard. He really was using it too much those last couple of years.
This one erases his presence on the dark web.
That's right. This one sends out a message to his social media informing everyone of his untimely death.
Damien's social media. Hail Satan, everybody.
It's all for you, Facebook.
Look at me, Damien.
Oh,
It's all
God
for
damn.
you.
But I mean, he's giving him that like, okay. And then he's like, I can't kill. He's a boy. I won't do it. But yeah, that's quite a task. You got a 6-year-old boy. You got to stab him with like 9 daggers in a church.
And you know what? So then he goes home, right? He goes back home. And he goes up into Damien's room, locks the Rottweiler outside. But he's still got to make sure, right? So he's looking for the birthmark, and he's cutting his hair. Also, great moment from Gregory Peck again in this one. The dude he's bringing the truth every single moment. And he cuts the hair, and he actually finds it. And you just see this just look of such regret on his face and resignation to what he's got to do. And then, out comes 5'2" Miss Blaylock. And they have a
Hailing
knockdown.
from parts unknown.
Oh my gosh. All down the stairs, into the kitchen, opens the junk drawer.
Yeah.
And puts her down with like a carving fork and like a fondue fork or something.
If there was a fight in your kitchen and the junk drawer got opened, what are they getting stabbed with?
Yeah, right.
A dead 9-volt battery.
Yeah. One of those Omen flame lighters that doesn't light anymore. A baggie full of twist ties, like just shoving them in their mouth.
Yeah, those little plastic bread things.
Yeah.
That close the bag.
Getting cut with bottle caps from that time you tried to homebrew like 8 years ago, but somehow you've still got bottle caps for this thing.
There's an old mason jar lid in there.
Oh.
The sticker you're supposed to put on your water heater.
Yeah. A chip clip that's lost its tension, so it doesn't really hold the bag closed anymore.
A magnet that fell off the fridge that no longer has the magnet in it.
Yeah, you just like the design because you spent that time in Lake Tahoe.
Yeah. There's one of those sterling silver spoons from Nevada.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we know what's in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I guess it's a fondue fork because that's I think what he puts her down with.
Yeah. She's got a good death face too.
She does, man. Again, everybody in this movie is fucking great, top notch.
Yeah,
you know. And then he grabs Damien and he makes a fatal mistake, which is if you're gonna break the law, just break one law at a time. Because he puts the kid in the car, he accosts the kid to go murder him on church ground, so crime 1, but he speeds to get to the church.
Yeah,
and that's
right
where
past the cops.
Yeah, it's like you should have just taken your time, man. If you had just obeyed the traffic laws, you probably could have put an end to the Antichrist. But
you would have been able to get a good 6 or 7 daggers in him before somebody comes in that door.
That's right.
Yeah,
would have erased that Visa card. You wouldn't have to worry about that anymore. His Pornhub account would have just vanished into thin air if you had just had a little bit more time. You know, the grandparents would never have known about his secret kinks.
Oh shit! So he gets him on hallowed ground. He's stumbling like I'm gonna do it. I can't do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And that's when the cops come in and shoot him. And now the original ending of the movie, there were 3 caskets, and that's how the movie was supposed to end. They all died.
Oh, interesting.
And they did it with test audiences, and the audiences went, no, I don't think so. So they went and reshot that bit with 2 caskets and Damien.
Well, I'll tell you what I found odd about that funeral. he got a full military honors funeral, like 21 gun salute. There's the guys in the dress blues folding up the flag. And I was like, he tried to murder his kid with 7 daggers. And still they're like, you know what? He deserves to go out like this.
Yeah.
You would think if he got caught like that, they'd be doing kind of a quiet ceremony without a lot of people involved.
We're not really talking about what happened with Mr. Thorne.
The circumstances of his death, there was a little bit of a black mark on there. But considering that he had no outstanding credit card debt, we're going to give him the full military funeral.
His fingerprints were on a fondue fork in some woman's neck.
Yeah, that's right. She's murdered, tries to murder his kid.
Yeah.
Who knows who murdered the wife, right? Because she just flew out the window there, so.
Yeah. And they're like, you know what? Full honors.
Yeah, 21 gun salute.
Yeah. So at the last second, after they had shot the one version, they said, you know what? Let's shoot this. So redid the ending, and there you got Damien smiling. And apparently Richard Donner was yelling at Damien. He said, "Don't you dare smile. Don't you dare laugh. Don't do it." And then you see him trying to hide it. And then he starts to smile, and then he starts to laugh. And that's the perfect ending.
Yeah. It is a good one. And like I was saying before, like you never see Damien do anything malevolent in the whole movie. And I did wonder, like, was that specifically Donner's choice so he could save it for, like, this thing, for the button, for just, like, the little kid who looks a little creepy smiling at the camera like he was kind of behind it the whole time.
Absolutely.
And it's very effective.
What do we rate the Omen with? We've done sacrificial daggers before.
We have done sacrificial daggers.
Or we could say 6s.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that gets a little confusing. Especially if you give it a 6, then it's got 4 6s, and that doesn't really.
Or just omens. How many omens would you give the Omen?
How many omens would I give the Omen? So this is a tough one. I don't want to give out too many 10s. This movie isn't a 10 for me. Although I think it is nearly perfect because, as I was saying before, along with Rosemary's Baby and The Exorcist, I think this movie sort of took on a larger meaning in the public consciousness about how we think about the Antichrist and the devil and end times. I think it supercharged those things. I think this movie actually brought the whole notion of 666 into the public consciousness that wasn't there before.
Iron Maiden.
I'm going to give the Omen, I'll go 9. 9 birthmarks. 9 birthmarks for the Omen.
Yeah, me too. 100%. 9. I thought about giving it a 10. But I don't like it as much as Alien. I like this movie a lot. I think this movie is well crafted all across the board. But again, it's not an Alien. It's not something I can watch over and over and over again. So yeah, it's a 9.
No, for me, I think the one, I don't even want to call it a failing, but the one thing I think it kind of just slightly misses the mark is with her character. And it's not anything Lee Remick does. It's just, I feel like we could have had more of Catherine Thorne seeing Damien and seeing the weird things that happen around him and seeing her internal struggle. I think they give that to Gregory Peck like every single chance they get. But I felt like they could have spread that around a little bit and it would have made it a more complete movie, in my opinion.
Should we take a lobby break? We talked about this movie for a long time, but it's a classic, so fuck it.
Yeah, no, it deserves it. And then we'll come back from the lobby and we'll talk about the first Omen.
We just did.
I mean, we're going to talk about... No, we talked about the original Omen. We're going to talk about the first Omen.
Oh.
And who's on first, I guess.
We'll be right back.
Hungry? Thirsty? The refreshment stand is open with everything to satisfy your taste buds. Here's the menu. The hottest, freshest, crunchiest popcorn. Each kernel popped to its fullest with that real movie time taste. Cold drinks. You'll find your favorite ice cold, tasty, and thirst quenching. And hot dogs, hamburgers, and candy too. Now a short intermission, so you'll have time to make your selection before the show begins.
And we're back. Good little lobby break there. Please, we're here to talk about The First Omen. 2024. 2024, directed by Arkasha Stevenson, with Nell Tiger-Free, Ralph Ineson, and Sonia Braga. Good old Sonia Braga making an appearance again.
Yeah. Nell Tiger-Free, that is quite a name.
It sure is. That just screams I was raised on a commune, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I learned how to sew my own clothes at age 5, and I was snapping beans with the rest of the children as a toddler. Yeah.
We canned pears.
That's right. We made our own perfume out of the civet glands of trapped bobcats that we found along the perimeter. Yes. You know who knows how to make her own candles? Nell Tiger-Free. That's who. Totally.
Yeah. Maybe later we'll get into her family names.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Nell Tiger-Free, no stranger to having dirty feet. I think probably like running through the soil in some bare feet.
Absolutely.
Feeling Nell Tiger-Free. And we're making fun, but we'll get into it in a bit. Nell Tiger-Free, terrific. Terrific in The First Omen. Absolutely one to watch. What a performance. But you have a trailer for The First Omen.
I do.
Not the one we already listened to.
No, not the original. This is the First Omen trailer. It starts in 666.
You don't have to be afraid. God has great plans for you. This child is his way.
Bill Nye
There's this girl
voiceover.
Yeah.
at the orphanage. I think that she really needs someone to look out for her.
Carlita suffers from a touch of madness.
You must be very careful, Margaret.
Ralph Ineson, that voice.
Bad things will start to happen around her.
Yeah.
Evil things.
What a voice. Evil things.
It's all for you. No, don't.
Yeah.
What does any of this have to do with Carlita?
This church has maintained power for thousands of years. Lady will stop at nothing to keep it that way. How do you control people who no longer believe? You create something to fear. I believe the girl is to be the mother.
Mother of what?
It's the mark of the
Witness.
devil.
The birth of evil.
It's not real. It's not real. It's not real. It's not real. What's not real? Who said that?
This is very real.
Nice.
Yeah. I remember when that trailer first came out, my wife saw it and just said, "Yeah, no thanks."
But now you watched it and then you were talking about it and she decided to watch it.
Yeah. Yeah. I watched
and you watched it again.
And then I told her of a few things. And then the next thing I know, she was watching it upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
And off the bat, I have to say, I just had the conversation today with someone who gave the old, like, ugh, does everything have to be a reboot or a remake or a sequel or a prequel to something? And yeah, okay, I get it. First off, watch an A24 movie because they make all sorts of original stories all the time and they very often are awesome. So shut up.
Absolutely.
Number two, yeah, you have a point. Sure, there's a lot of remakes and sequels and prequels, and sure, many of them are not great. This movie is definitely a rare exception, though. I thought they handled this one so well. It is well directed. We already talked about the performance from everybody's favorite commune dweller, Nell Tiger Free. She's great. The rest of the performances are really good. It's beautifully shot. It is very suspenseful. Has some of the most unforgettable images I have seen in a movie in a long time.
Yep.
And we will dive into those in the spoiler-filled section. But since we're keeping it spoiler-free and Nell Tiger-free right now, Mike, what did you think of this?
I went into this movie with a very low expectation because I love the original. I gave it a 9. I have always liked Omen 2 and Omen 3. And so I went into, I've been burned before by things I was excited about that turned out to be shit shows. And
sure,
it happens
you think
all
it could
the
be
time.
just another cash grab. You know, they're just
Absolutely.
like taking the property
Absolutely.
that they know is recognizable, and they're going to turn and you try and make another buck off it, which is what happens most of the time.
I was a little hopeful because I knew they were trying to be somewhat faithful to the original story in that it's a 70s movie and they're taking it back to, you know, they're not trying to like reinvent and bounce it off of the 2006 remake of The Omen, which we didn't talk about.
Yeah. Because why would we?
Yeah, because it's forgettable. I mean, who cares, right? Sure, it's a bunch of actors and they did a decent job and it hits all the same beats as the original, but the original just does it so well. So went into it with a low expectation, saw it in the theater, and was kind of blown away. Saw it with Grace. I really like this movie a lot. At the time, I hadn't seen anything good in a while, and I was like, wow, I'm a little blown away by the performances, by the very disturbing imagery, by the how it locks into the original. I mean, Ralph Ineson, that's Father Brennan.
Yeah. Playing the same character that we saw in the Omen, who we know gets stabbed with the church steeple or lightning rod or whatever that is, who gets impaled on the lawn there and makes front page news.
Yeah.
Ralph Ineson is playing that same character here. I watched an interview with him talking about it where he said, you know, he's not trying to do an imitation or an impersonation of that guy's performance because it's not really what he's very good at.
Sure.
But he did think it was important because this takes place before The Omen. I was going to say before the First Omen. This is the First Omen.
Yeah.
Why did they do this to us? I guess it's better than the pre-Omen.
Yeah.
The Proman. Yeah, they must have discussed that at some point.
Probably.
They had a whole meeting where like, are we gonna call it like Omen, pre-Omen, Omen -1?
Is it going to be confusing if we say it's the First Omen? Because when people talk about the Omen, they talk about it being the First Omen.
Yeah.
Nah, Frank, it'll be fine.
I'm always picturing some fat-fingered dude with a cigar.
That's fine.
But he said that because it happens before The Omen, that he felt that the character should be a little bit more hopeful in this one.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that take because, like I was saying with The Omen, when that character appears, he is just a rambling madman in the beginning of The Omen. Have you drank the blood? Have you eaten his body? That's the only way you'll survive. Like, oh, God, just pump the brakes there.
Yeah, totally.
Father Brennan.
Pump the brakes there, Father Creepy Pants.
Yeah. Always, and he's just a performer that always gives a solid performance.
Yeah.
But he's great in this. But yeah, we have the story of our novice nun or a novitiate who comes to Rome to take the vows and become a nun as she is working in an orphanage for girls. When she begins to catch wind of strange conspiracies surrounding one of the charges there in the orphanage. And as she uncovers more of the mystery, things get more and more sinister and sort of spiral towards the climax.
Yeah. There's some red herrings. You think it's headed in one direction, it heads in another direction. It's all done well. This movie does a really, really good job of ramping up the suspense and slowly building things to a point where at the end, it is fucking screaming. Not like The Substance screaming,
No. It is definitely more restrained than the climax of The Substance, which we won't spoil here, but it never goes off the rails like The Substance does in the end. I think it's important to note too that this director, Arkasha Stevenson is her name, does an absolute, I think, fantastic job at making her own film, paying homage to some of the qualities of the original Omen that make it great, putting her own stamp on this. And it's also important to note, I think it's important that this movie was directed by a woman.
Absolutely. I was going to say the same thing. Something that deals so much with women's bodies and horror being directed by a woman, like The Substance was as well.
Yeah. But great. It is not spoiling anything because we know it is a prequel to The Omen.
We know someone is giving birth to Damien.
Yes, that birth is going to play a big role in this story. So I think it was a good choice on the part of the producers to put a woman at the helm of this. And it manifests in many ways throughout the picture. One of them is also just the fact that it deals with an orphanage for girls run by nuns. So I think the director's eye is showing you some things that maybe a man might have glossed over, or at least there's a more personal connection to it through the director's lens. And I think that's very apparent. There's no like long Brian De Palma shower takes or locker room scenes in here. We joked about him directing Carrie a few episodes back, which is such a feminine story as well. And then you have those moments where you're like,
opens on like a 2-minute slow motion shower scene.
You're like, who is telling this story? Are they the right person to tell this?
If Brian De Palma had directed this movie, what would the nuns be doing? Slow motion trampoline.
Yes, right. I thought that was a great bit in that too. Is that you see the nuns in this movie, and they do often subvert what has become a creepy Catholic stereotype in a lot of movies. Nowadays it's just like the spooky parts of the Catholic Church. They're smoking cigarettes and cracking jokes and jumping on trampolines, and you can tell there's a real sisterhood between them, a real community that extends beyond just what you normally see in a lot of movies and horror movies, where they're just like rigid, stoic, or even cruel forces.
There's clearly nothing against trampolines in The Vows, and that's good.
In the trailer that you played there too, the hospital or the orphanage that this story takes place in also has like a birthing center in it. You see it in the trailer for this movie, and the nuns explain, we often take in women who are going to give birth, and so they become the orphans in the orphanage, right? The girls do. And another reason why I think it was important. And there are other little bits too that I think that the director's touch could be seen. There is a scene where one of the nuns does take the veil. She does take her vows, and they're putting the wimple on her head for the first time, fitting that white wimple over. And it's like a really tight bit.
Yeah, they're pulling those strings hard.
Yeah, they're lacing her up, and it feels like getting corseted in, or it gives that impression of being just really tight.
You see her wince.
Yeah, her face gets stretched back, and I thought, I have no doubt that was the director's touch onto that. I don't think, many, many male directors would not have thought about the physical nature of that act.
Yeah.
Or wouldn't have given it the sort of weight that it has in this movie. And there's a lot of little touches like that throughout the whole thing that ground this movie and make it that much more real, much more visceral, and keeps the suspense tightening.
Yeah, absolutely. The suspense, the way this movie builds from slow, and as you think it's being one thing, and then it starts to be another thing, and then it's just really before I had seen Oddity, this would have been my favorite movie of the year.
It's certainly up there. It's certainly up there as one of my favorite new horror movies. And all the more surprising, like you said, you had low expectations because it is a prequel.
Yeah. But I mean, the moment that movie started, I'm pretty sure they shot it on film. They color timed it to look like a 70s movie.
Yes.
They had everything was accurate as far as like the hair and the makeup and the cars and the clothes. And it was great. So it felt like it was made in the 70s.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because you have this movie, made to look like it was made in 2024 as a period piece in the 70s. And then you have The Omen, which was actually shot in the 70s. But in a way, it's almost like the measures that they had to take for the film nowadays make it feel more in the 70s than even The Omen did actually being in the 70s.
Yeah, totally.
Like the group shots of people where, they're all costumed, all of their hair is done to look like they're part of this era. It really had sort of a more almost expansive lens on the time period than The Omen did being shot in that actual time period. It was one of the things that right away when I started this movie, I just went, oh, fuck yeah, this looks great. And look at you're looking at Rome in the early 70s, and I was, this just looks awesome.
Yeah.
It's really well done.
Very well done. I can't, at the moment, think of a better prequel that's been done after a movie that was a big, big giant hit. Nothing comes to mind.
Nothing's jumping to my mind either. Yeah.
I mean, Alien Romulus is a great movie to throw into the Alien canon, but this is a better movie than Alien Romulus.
Oh, yes. Yeah, because this one, it expands on the original in some ways that I really applauded. I really appreciated. And it actually, because I watched this one before I watched the original Omen.
Yes, and that's how you should do it, folks. You should watch this one and then watch the original Omen.
It bridges so nicely into the original one and gave me a little bit more appreciation for some of the things in that original one.
Totally. How many nuns on trampolines would you give this movie?
Nuns on trampolines. How many tramps on nunolines? I am going to give this one 8.5.
Nice. I'm giving it an 8.
Yeah, 8.5 nuns on trampolines for me.
Yeah, 8 nuns on trampolines for me. That seems like a dream I might have had at one point. Maybe it was after a night of the Omen soundtrack. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. They're just all bouncing.
Yeah. This one does not have the Jerry Goldsmith score to it, but it does.
It has some cues.
It does, and the score is still eerie. I mean, they did their work. It's obvious that this was crafted by someone who really revered the original movie.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a spoiler alert to say that at the end, I believe they do play part of Ave Satsumi.
They do, and it's a goosebump moment.
Yeah, it's worth staying.
Yeah.
Let's take a break and come back and break this one down.
Oh, I cannot wait to spoil it.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the diva to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
And we're back from the lobby. So let's break down the first Omen.
I loved all the new stained glass they'd put in the lobby. When did they do that? I thought that was really neat. A little creepy.
They're up there. They're roping the last one in now.
Yeah. Hope nothing happens with that scaffolding. This is the spoiler portion, and we're getting into it already. So if you've not seen The First Omen, and by The First Omen, I mean 2024's The First Omen,
not the original
First
Omen,
which was the original Omen.
Yes. If you have seen the original Omen, then you need to see The First Omen. They go well together. They're like peanut butter and jelly.
So Margaret is our novice nun. She comes into the orphanage, and right away, when you're like, oh God, it's an orphanage, you're like, fuck. That's a good recipe already for spooky shit to start happening.
Oh, totally. Nuns plus orphanage, you've got it right there.
Yeah, and the nuns talk about how they only take the girls. There's no boys in there. You see the weird birthing center there that has the cold stirrups and all the steel instruments around. It just looks like the most invasive, uncomfortable place there.
It looks like a BDSM dungeon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not where you want to give birth.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
and all the paint is kind of flaking on the walls all around the monastery. It looks, or the orphanage. It looks a little bit run down.
This place really needs a makeover.
Yeah, and you start meeting your cast of characters pretty quickly. You get Bill Nighy, right, who plays, I think, a bishop or a cardinal.
Not
He's
the
an
science
American.
guy?
No, different one. Oddly, this movie, you get both Bill Nighy and Charles Dance in the same movie, which is kind of a miracle since, like, normally you get one or the other. You know?
Yeah.
You're calling one of those guys, and if he can't do it, then you're going to try and get the other guy.
Absolutely.
You get both of them in this one.
Charles Dance doesn't make it too far. His dance is a little short.
Oh, he barely gets to a two-step out there. He's the first kill of the movie as the...
Which you smell coming the moment you see, like...
Oh, yeah.
Like, okay, hey, here we got this stained glass. We got it on a rope. We got some Italian guys. They're up top, and they're, like, pulling on the rope.
It's right above the doorway. Yeah.
People are walking underneath. You're like, yeah, someone's dropping this. 100%.
Yeah. Father Brennan goes in and has a short conversation with Charles Dance's character. They're both priests. They're in the confessional booth. Charles Dance's character leaves, and Father Brennan follows him out. And yeah, exactly. They're standing there talking underneath this. Yeah. And you'd seen it coming already, but then...
Don't talk underneath it.
Then a bit of the scaffolding or the pipe comes sliding through the stained glass window, and there's just a little
slow motion rain of glass, which reminded me of the slow motion fish bowl fall. Yeah, these movies, they tie so well together.
Charles Dance kind of walks away a little bit and then turns back around, and you see the back of his skull has had a piece just sort of like cleanly taken out the back.
Pretty sizable piece.
He smiles, and he's got like blood just on his two front teeth. Yeah, and he gives like this horrible little smile.
If this was like a Millennium film, he would have taken 3 steps and then he would have dissected to like 4 pieces or something.
Yeah, right.
It's
gruesome, but it is also a little bit restrained in there.
After that, that's when we meet Nell Tiger Free.
We meet Margaret.
Yeah.
And start meeting the cast of characters in the orphanage. You got Sonia Braga as the abbess there, the sort of head of the orphanage. You meet the creepy nun.
Sister Angelica of the albino brows. Yes.
Oh, boy. Yes. Yes. There she is, just acting weird on the steps and setting off every alarm bell that any horror fan has rigged up. Like, uh-oh.
You're like, okay.
There's a problem.
Yeah, she's either possessed or she's the one that's going to give birth to the demon.
Yeah. Look at her skeletal frame and lack of eyebrows. I'm sure she won't cause any problems.
And she seems blind, too. Like, she's feeling her way down the stairs.
Yeah.
But she's not.
No, she just has the mind of a child, I think.
Yeah.
It's like...
pretty fucking creepy.
She was one of the orphans, I think they say at one point. And then you meet Carlita Scianna, a sallow-looking girl who shies away from the other children and is often put in the bad room by the nuns for acting bad. And again, you very quickly get the feeling like, okay, this is our girl. There's something going on here. Is she going to be the one right?
Yeah.
You know this is a prequel to The Omen. You know somebody is gonna give birth to Damien. Here's our girl, right?
At one point, Margaret says, "Why is there a bad room?" And the head nun says, "Because some girls are bad." And I thought, amen, sister. Amen.
Tell me more, Sonia Braga.
Indeed they are, ma'am.
You get the trope, too, of like, oh, here's all the kids' drawings, but what's this one really creepy one? You know, that is a pretty overplayed device at this juncture. You know what I mean? Like, that gets used so often where it's like, oh, everybody's drawings are like full of sunshine and rainbows, and then you get this one where it's like all black and white.
What?
Everything has like, giant eyeballs and sharp teeth, and there's like serpents coming out of people's mouths, and you're like, oh, who did this?
Oh, Carlita did that one. She's in the bad room.
And then the movie kind of subverts some expectations, as we said it does with like the nuns, when you see them telling jokes and having fun. Turns out our heroine here, Margaret, she doesn't actually stay at the orphanage. She has an apartment off-site, and you meet her roommate.
Sister Hottie Boombalati.
Yeah. Sister sometimes looks like a young Elizabeth Taylor, which is very, very striking. And she's also a novice nun, but wants to let her body breathe a little bit. So she's kind of a party girl.
Yeah.
Which I was like, I did not see this angle of this movie coming.
No, me either. And then she treats Nell to that sort of like party night. Like, come on, it's your last time to explore and to have fun, so do this. I was like, all right. I mean, maybe that's a thing that happens. Sure, I would buy it. But it was certainly an interesting and awkward moment and a good scene when she gets all dressed up in like clothes that she's never worn anything like that before.
Yep. She's just like sort of staring at herself and uncomfortable and feeling like her clothes are revealing too much, and
she closes up the top of the dress with her hand a little bit.
And then her friend convinces her to go out, and then they cut to the scene where they're at the disco, and she's actually put on a jacket and has like a scarf around her neck. She is like a little bit more closed off, and you meet the two boys who approach them, and they want to dance, and it takes Margaret a little bit of talking to Paolo there before she decides to get on the dance floor, and then she starts to loosen up pretty quickly after having had a couple of drinks, and then
probably not much of a drinker.
No, the night kind of spirals away from her, and she wakes up the next morning in an absolutely beautiful shot.
Yes, with her hair all splayed out. Yeah, and the close-up of the spider.
Yes, the first thing you see is like the spider on her like eyelash.
Yeah, but you don't realize it because it's a giant fucking spider. It takes up the whole screen. And you're like, look at that big fucking spider. Where's that spider? And then camera pulls back to reveal that wonderful shot you're talking about, and a tiny little spider crawls off her eyelash and onto her cheek. So fucking great.
Yeah, and it's a beautifully framed shot. It's a close up of her face, and her hair is kind of like all splayed out. My wife said that it reminded her of like Medusa in the way.
Totally.
She's on this like royal purple sort of sheet behind her. But it also reminded me a little bit of like the Renaissance paintings that you will see later in the movie with like the cracks in the paintings and the sort of darkness around their face and stuff. Very, very beautiful shot. And another moment where I started looking at like, who directed this movie? Because it's so beautiful.
Really super well done. And what had she done prior to this besides some television stuff?
I don't know. I watched an interview of her with the American Film Institute, and I think she might have like some film school roots with the AFI, but I don't know what she's done other than this. This isn't going to be the last thing, because she does a hell of a job with this movie.
Yeah, she did some episodes of Legion, that TV show.
Oh, okay.
Brand new cherry flavor TV series from a couple of years ago. So not a ton of stuff. So to come out swinging with this movie, fucking great.
Yeah. Something that could have easily been relegated to the dustbin. Could have easily just been like one more sequel that nobody asked for.
Yeah. And she wrote some of this movie too. You know that she took a pass at the script and probably tweaked it to give it that feminine feel because the other two writers were guys.
I saw an interview of her. She's talking about one of the original pitches for this movie, which she talks about what I think is the most memorable image that we're going to see. It's actually kind of the next thing that I have written down here, which is the birthing scene, where one of the women who has come to the orphanage, you kind of had seen her briefly, but she's going to give birth. So the nuns are all around, and they've got her legs are up and splayed open in the metal stirrups. Mm-hmm. She starts to give birth, and they give her the gas, and this woman goes from like screaming in pain into a very disturbing sort of rictus smile of like ecstasy, maybe.
Yeah, you see it in the trailer.
Yeah, it's super weird. And our heroine is kind of watching this happen through a window into the room, and she's walking around a corner to the other window and seeing things, and you start seeing glimpses of the pregnant belly and the legs, and the doctor and the nurses are standing kind of in front of...
Yeah, they're blocking the view somewhat, but they'll move a little bit, and you'll see like a sliver of crowning, and you know that, you know, something is being born.
You... at Autonomous have done your share of
a lot
births in the last couple of years. So why don't you tell us about this and take us through this? Because in terms of the images from any horror movie I've seen this year, this might be the freakiest thing.
Well, at Autonomous, we've got a couple of birthing rigs, and they're all pretty much the same thing. And what it is a pregnant belly with legs on it, and an open birth canal that's open for the crowning, so you can put a baby's head right there and get, the hair and everything, have it all be greased up with little afterbirth and a tiny bit of gel blood. And it's
Lanugo.
Yes. It is sculpted open enough that you can easily push the baby through. And usually it's done as an insert, and you got someone behind that's like shoving something through. And yeah, sure, there's been plenty of jackass moments where you might pass anything through the hole just to for that comic shot of whatever.
Velveeta shells and cheese. How did this get up there? Is this a pager? Who even uses these anymore?
My old cell phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure hands have come out and done the hook'em horns. And then
just shake hands with the doctor.
Yes, and there's maybe even images of that out there somewhere that have been taken. But they do that exact same thing. So they've got this demon hand all curled up, and it comes out looking like a crowning baby's head for a moment with the dark hair.
Yeah, you get that side view first.
Yeah.
Where you see the flesh distending and that bit of crowning.
Yeah.
And then it goes to just a straight-on shot.
Yeah, because it's all plasticized silicone, so it moves when you pass something through it. It sort of bulges out like an actual birth does. I've seen plenty of videos of the real thing. They send them to us all the time. We want it to be like this. And then we go to set, and they always say, this is the best we've ever seen. I had doctors. I was doing one today on set. And the doctor and the OBGYN nurse both approached and said, this is the best thing I've ever seen on set as far as making it look realistic. We got a round of applause. It was pretty nice. It's good. We were the hero today. Sometimes you're not the hero. Sometimes you're the asshole that fucked up a blood gag, and the crew's got to wait around while everybody cleans it up and you reset. But no, we were the hero today. But yeah. Going back to this.
I've also gotten a round of applause for making babies before, but go ahead.
Nice. Well done. Well done, sir. So, yeah, it comes from the side. You see it from the side, and then the fingers open, and it's a demonic hand with the fucking talons on it, and super fucking creepy, and she freaks out and passes out.
passes out. Just that image of like the splayed legs and then the hand emerging from the vagina and opening up with all the, lanugo and viscera on it. I can still get surprised by movies sometimes.
Sure.
Of like, whoa, you're really... Yeah, we're really going to see this.
I remember seeing that in the theater and being like, what? Oh, my God.
Yeah. That is a true body horror at its finest there. You know?
But the image I was talking about earlier isn't that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, pray tell, is it much further down the story here?
It's at the end. It's towards the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've still got It's All For You. I guess the first It's All For You, not the original It's All For You.
Sure.
But shortly after this moment,
it was still
heroine,
all for you.
Yeah, it was still all for you. Our heroine is talking to Carlita, the girl we're slowly beginning to wonder if she will give birth to the Antichrist.
Yep. Our red herring, so to speak.
Yeah, well, we don't know that yet. But our sister of the albino eyebrows decides to go up to the third story or the fourth story.
She decides to pull a Holly Palance.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
You can see she's got the noose around her neck. You know she's going to do the exact same thing, but she looks wet. Now, do you think there was a meeting of a bunch of people sitting around a table going, now how can we top
that?
The original Omen?
I know. She ties a noose around her neck, she hangs herself off the building, and she goes crashing through the window below her, which is exactly the same.
Yeah. But the way they top it is she sets herself on fire. That sounded like a joke, but it's true.
Yes, it is terrifying. It is horrifying. It's well done. Sets herself on fire, jumps, and then her flaming body goes through the window. It's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, it's a gruesome. It's All For You copy, and tries to up it a little bit, and does a nice job.
And her corpse or ghost or a vision of her will continue throughout the whole movie when you see her burned remains.
Yeah, which is a nice makeup. Yeah,
it's got a lot of some dark corners or appear to be comforting Carlita, the sallow young woman.
Yeah. I did a makeup similar on a movie called Mirrors, which takes place in New York but was shot in Romania. Because, Romania is so much like New York. And myself and Jeremy Aiello did a generic burned makeup on a Romanian extra, essentially. And we glued some nylon under her eye and then stretched the nylon a little bit and glued it under her jaw. So it was like a piece of literally like nylons. We just clipped out like a rectangular piece of nylon, glued it at the eyelid, at the eye bag, and then glued it down under the chin so that when she would open her mouth, it would pull her eye down even more.
Cool.
Yeah, and then we put the burn appliances on top of that, and it was cool. So she rolled her eyes up, and then she would open her mouth and go like, "Rah!" And her eyes kind of, it was really, really neat. And this makeup of Sister Albino Brow, all burned up, reminded me of that.
Yeah, they took some, looked like they took some flesh away from around her teeth and stuff and exposed some of that. Yeah. Like I said, she already had kind of a skeletal build to her.
Most of the women in this movie do. They rope the nylon over the one girl's face in the very opening, and it looks like the nylon is over a skull as she's sucking the breath in. I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
We need to talk a little bit about some of the ways, and I think this movie could be criticized for it, of how it diverts away from the original story. Doesn't exactly match up with some of the ways the story unfolded in the original Omen.
Sure, like the whole he was born of a jackal.
Yeah. That's the number one thing. And I mean, like, I think you could probably, like, if you wanted to make that criticism, be my guest. In the end, I'm not sure that it mattered that much to me. But yes, they say...
Yeah, I didn't
in
think
the original
it
Omen, he was born of a jackal. And then, you know, they have that whole scene in the graveyard where they open up the mother's grave and you see this jackal skeleton. But in this one, he will not be born of a jackal. He's going to be born from a woman, and in fact the jackal is this beast,
demon jackal thing.
Yeah, that the sect has, like, in the basement or something. I heard them trying to explain it away as, like, part of the way that this unholy Antichrist is supposed to be born is that the beast has to procreate with its own offspring.
Yes, they did say that.
So they're making the case that, like, she is also part jackal, I guess, and that still fits. I don't know that I necessarily jive with that explanation. I guess I appreciate that they at least attempted it, but I don't know. It didn't bother me that much that it sort of diverted from the canon. Didn't that bother you at all?
No, it didn't, because it was close enough, because there was still jackal involvement, you know, of sorts, even though it's like a demonic beast kind of like, where did that thing come from? And the image I was talking about is the penis. Did you see the fucking demonic penis?
I wasn't sure if that was demonic penis or demonic tongue. And was this towards the very end of the movie?
Yeah, it is a penis, and it has been...
we have confirmed it is, in fact,
we have
a penis.
Confirmation that, yes, from the director, that when someone brought it up to her, she's like, I'm glad someone finally noticed. Yes, that is a demon penis. That was a big bone of contention.
Oh, hey. Is that what they called it on set?
The bone of contention.
Yes.
Can we bring in the bone of contention now, please? It's flying on set.
The devil's cock.
Yeah.
Old Scratch and his two balls. Dickastopheles.
Yeah. It is disturbing.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So I do remember that, but yeah, I thought that was because there's a lot of tongue imagery in this movie too,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
She gets her face licked by Carlita when she first meets her. When she's on the dance floor with Paulo, she licks his face.
Yep.
And then when there's a riot in the streets, and it looks like at some point somebody licks
something licks her because it's a big crazy demonic tongue. Yeah, not like a Warwick Davis saliva-filled mouth tongue, but different.
And that's right around the time where we start to learn that our heroine has also been having visions her whole life. And she was born an orphan, and she used to get locked in a bad room when she was growing up. And, you know, Bill Nye's character started to take care of her and steered her towards the church as a way of life.
Yeah.
And that's when you start to, at least I started to think like, maybe this Carlita girl is, as you said, maybe this is a red herring.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the sallow girl after all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in her quest for answers, our heroine is approached by Father Brennan, and she goes to meet him, and he lays some stuff out, and she says, no, you're crazy, this is insane. You know, he lays out essentially the whole plot that they're trying to create the Antichrist, or birth the Antichrist. And it's one of my favorite things about this whole movie. And it's one thing I think they do, that I think improves on the original, is that I think I'd always thought that the original, it must have been some like group of Satanists that was trying to birth the Antichrist. And in the conversation that she has with this guy, he talks about the fact that it is the Catholic Church, in fact, that is doing this. It is just a sect of nuns and priests and bishops, and sometimes higher, I think he says, that have decided. And I love this bit, so I wrote it down, because I was like, fuck, this is good. He says, there are two churches, one that follows the teachings of Christ, the one that you and I are part of, and the other, the church that will turn a blind eye to torture, to rape, to commit murder in the name of God, all in the name of supreme power. And I thought, oh, that's fucking great. I mean, it's a period piece, but it had such a, like, modern-day current feel, knowing all the shit that the Catholic Church has pulled in the last sort of 5 years, covering up all the scandals that they have. So to actually talk about it as, like, an organization that there's a whole sect of it that is determined to keep power at all costs, to cover up all the evil shit that they're doing.
Yeah.
And that is the group that is doing this. And they're doing it because people are turning away from the church, and the church has had power for thousands of years. And it ties into the riots that are happening in Rome at the time of, like, people are turning away from the church. They're disobeying their elders. They're protesting. They're breaking away from the traditional power sources. And that the church essentially wants to create the Antichrist as a way to create something to fear and bring people back under the sway and the power of the church.
Yeah.
Which I thought, fuck, that's great. And then she says, that's insane, you're insane, and tries to leave. And again, I was like, bravo. It's so refreshing.
Yeah.
Even though I thought, like, wow, that's such a great motivation for all of this. The fact that she is skeptical and doesn't buy it at first and thinks that the whole thing is crazy really grounded this movie for me. I was like, yes, they're not just going to make it that easy for someone to just lay all this crazy shit on the table and have someone buy it from square one. They're going to make their characters work to prove it. But I loved that. I loved that whole motivation behind it. I thought that was an amazing part of this movie.
He's like, listen, Margaret, they're making a beast. And she's like, I gotta go.
Yeah. And she will,
it's
as
not
the
a human
mystery
child.
deepens, she will end up going back to him after she starts to get wind of some things and her suspicions deepen. And we have that great scene
with Paolo, right? Paolo's death, which is very Damien Omen 2.
See, again, it's been a while. Does somebody get chopped in half in Damien Omen 2?
In an elevator. You remember that scene? The elevator, goes all the way up and then drops all the way down and then stops. But then the elevator cable railing from the top comes screaming down at full speed and cuts the elevator in half. Yeah. So yeah, poor Paolo. She realizes he was trying to tell her, look for the mark on herself. And then he turns and gets hit by a car like so many heroes do in a horror movie. They turn and suddenly, boom, they're hit by a car, smashed into a wall.
It is a weird death in there too, because she, horrified, goes over to Paolo, is like, oh, and she grabs onto him, and she's like, hold on, I'm just gonna get you out of there.
Yeah, it's a little stupid, that part. Yeah. That part pulled me out.
Yeah, they back up, and she has essentially pulled the upper half of his body away from the lower half, and she's just standing there,
sort of effortlessly holding him. And he's not dripping all over her, and it's not a mess like it would be. That's one thing I did not like in this movie. I'm like,
weakest of the movie.
You could have done
part of the
way
movie.
better. Yeah. If I was on set, I would have fought. I would have fought for that. I would have said, no, it has to be more like this. But anyway.
But yeah, you get that great scene after Paolo is killed of the nun taking her vows we talked about, when they're putting the wimple on her and tightening it up. But she's wearing that wedding dress, essentially marrying Christ, which is what a nun essentially does, devotes her life to Christ, to serve and obey Christ,
now,
as she would like a husband.
Yeah. The first time I saw it, I was under the impression that her character was to be Mrs. Blaylock in the future. But they don't tie them together. But I think that would have been a really nice stroke if it was. Because they cover Father Brennan. Why not have one of those nuns be Mrs. Blaylock? That would have been an obvious choice.
Yeah.
So I like to think that it was her.
Her name was Luz in the movie.
Luz, yeah.
And she was certainly Italian, whereas Mrs. Blaylock was certainly like English.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting they didn't tie those two things. I think they tied Father Spiretto in. He's the guy in the Omen who gives
Is he the
Gregory
dude with the
Peck
really terrible makeup? Really terrible burn makeup?
In the Omen?
Yeah.
Yeah. because he's burned, but he's also the guy in the beginning of the movie that gives Gregory Peck the baby, right?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I think so.
And I think he's also represented in the First Omen here, the head of the orphanage or whatever. But yeah, you've got this marriage scene where they slip the ring on her finger, they tighten the wimple around, she takes her vows, and then they all prostrate themselves in front of the cardinal or whatever, which is just weird.
Yeah,
it
is.
I mean, it's great when you can just make like what I think is pretty close to the actual ritual feel uncomfortable and odd and threatening in some ways, like they do. But as they're doing that, our girl has snuck into the basement of this whole place looking for the files, and this is when she takes a stack of Skiana files. The girl, Carlita, our sallow girl who we think is going to give birth to the Antichrist. Her last name is Skiana. She finds a bunch of files with the name Skiana, and she takes them. She tries to escape with them, and then is
sort of caught.
She's caught by the nuns, but then broken out by one of the young priests, and eventually makes her way back to Father Brennan.
I felt that young priest probably had a lot more scenes because he doesn't have much to do, and then suddenly he's a hero.
Yeah, I thought we were really going to get a Marathon Man twist in this.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I thought, oh, he's breaking her out, but he's
really taking her to the ritual.
Yeah, something like that. But no, we get the reveal when she goes to Father Brennan and they're looking over all the Skianas and they realize that Carlita has the birthmark in the wrong place.
Yep.
And that one of the other Skianas is a little older and she has been missing, but she lived. She wasn't all malformed like the others, and she realizes, of course,
that it's her. Yeah,
that it's her. Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, fucking good.
What?
I mean,
no.
It's you. You're the beast.
Yeah. Look, I saw it coming. I saw it coming, and I think most people could see it coming. But again, it's not predictable in a bad way. To see her come to the revelation is fun in itself.
Yeah.
And she does a great job letting that wash over her and then kind of realizing, like, wait, am I already pregnant?
Yep.
And it took me, I think, to watch it the second time to realize. So it must have happened.
That's where you see the demon penis.
The night where she went out partying and had a few too many drinks and then, met Paolo. She must have been impregnated then, right?
It had to happen that night with Paolo.
But then, well, if you're going to criticize this, you can easily say, like, that is exactly what happens in Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah.
Because she gets drugged and she realizes, like, oh my God, this is, in Rosemary's Baby, she kind of wakes up during it. This is really happening. This isn't a dream. But also, you kind of have almost a direct parallel in this movie, too. Again, if you were going to criticize it, I don't know, being derivative in that way, sure, I guess you could say it.
You're happy that the movie is taking this turn. It's creepy. It's fucked up. She tries to escape. They try to get her out of there, and of course the car is hit, in the side, like so many cars as people try to escape. It's a little bullshittery. Everyone in the car is knocked unconscious or dead, except for her.
She stumbles out in front of the church as it's tolling, right? The bell's tolling. And I gotta say, good twitching.
Oh, yeah. She does a great body horrors transformative dance.
She gets out of the car and she's racked with agony or ecstasy. It is a very, it looked to me like sexual abuse, but it's just her standing there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She's kind of getting bent over and she's panting, and it has a very animalistic, disturbingly sexual tone to everything. And then she'll just eventually drop to her knees, tear open her shirt, and you see her belly just start to expand.
Yeah, totally. And water breaks. It's pretty. Oh. It's a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've seen some shit up to this point, but very little of it has been overtly supernatural. until this moment, right?
Yeah.
Until this moment, the other stuff has seemed like visions or just madness, people dousing themselves in kerosene and hanging themselves off the top of the building. But this is like overtly, this is not a vision. This is actually some sort of magic at work. Her belly just fills up, her water breaks. And then where do they bring her? Where is it that she goes?
I guess into the basement? I mean, every church has a creepy basement. We've learned that through many films over the years.
Yeah, and this is where the jackal is, and she will give birth here. You're gonna see another just cringe-inducing,
really nice C-section
scalpel in the belly, and then they pull out not a baby, but like a big sack.
Yeah, the entire amniotic sack.
Amniotic sack.
Yeah.
They pull it out and then poke it with a scalpel. And that to me seemed like that prop as it came out, that gag, that sack, it's full of fluid and he's got the scalpel, and I was like, well, this seems like one of those things like, don't fuck it up, buddy.
Yeah.
This looks like a delicate thing.
We only got one take of this. We're losing light.
I even noticed like where he pokes it with a scalpel, the hole kind of bursts from a different place.
Yeah.
And they sort of move around with it. But I was like, yeah, that's definitely one of those effects that you don't necessarily want to give to the hands of the actor.
Yeah.
Just like give it to the people that did it, put them in the costume and let them
100%.
use the gag. And this is where, you get the reveal. Damien is born.
Yeah.
But also
a sister.
I didn't see that one coming.
Neither did I. And I wouldn't say I was a huge fan of it. I was like, oh, well, how's that fit in the canon?
And this is where I think is both exceedingly clever and also opens it up to a criticism, because this movie is heading essentially for kind of a happy ending, something that the original Omen does not give you. He tries to kill the kid, he can't do it, he gets shot, and then Damien's smiling at the camera. This one gives birth, she tries to take the baby. She's got Damien in one hand and a scalpel in the other, and the baby is kind of wrestled free, and her friend Luz stabs her with a scalpel. She falls to her knees, and the sisters, they're all standing around. And the sisters take Damien, and then the sisters are like, burn it all, burn them both. And I was like, are you talking about her and the baby? Are you talking about her and the jackal, who is also kind of behind the tapestry over there?
Yeah, why do they want to burn the jackal at that point?
And then also I was like, are you in the basement of the orphanage here in the church? Because then you could burn all the orphans. And like, I understand that we're bad guys, but a few scenes back, you were giving us this whole justification of like, we want to bring people back to the church, and there was a lot of moral equivocation going on. And I was like, that makes sense. But I was like, you're going to burn a whole orphanage down. That's just fucking evil. Goodness.
No, man, we're not.
Yeah.
So they light it on fire, and then here comes Carlita to save the day. Our sallow girl who wasn't going to give birth to the Antichrist.
Yep.
She essentially saves her and the baby, exit throughout the flames. They see the sort of jackal demon on fire before they leave.
Yeah.
And you get this epilogue of them in the mountains.
Not a big fan of that part either.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. It's like, you just had a C-section, you went through giving birth to the Antichrist, then you got stabbed in the belly with a scalpel and ran out of a burning building. I was just like, how in the world are we supposed to believe that you survived all that? That is a lot.
Yeah.
And then you kind of realize in this epilogue, as her and Carlita are raising this girl, that they have both set this up as a prequel to the Omen, and left the door open
as a sequel
to make a sequel
to the prequel
to this. They can make a sequel of this movie. It's a very clever thing to do, but also like probably one of my chiefest criticisms of this movie. It's like you really struggled to put a sort of happy ending on this and leave the door open. I'm not so sure it shouldn't have ended on a down note. No, I really liked that character of Margaret. Would have been a bummer to see her just burned to a crisp in the basement.
The way this movie should have ended is it's a boy. And then like burn them down. And then they leave and roll credits.
When that music does kick in, which is at this part,
yes,
when they go back to that satanic. Oh, I got chills. I really got chills.
Yeah, me
because
too.
Because they'd been holding on to it for this whole movie, and they let it go at the very end, and that's a perfect touch.
Yeah,
that's a perfect touch on that.
It is totally, and that brings us to the end of a rather long episode. Mom's gonna have to pretend this is 2 episodes.
Hey. Break it up however you want, Mom. It's just fine. You know? And that goes to anybody. Listen, if your commute is only half an hour and it takes you, there and back 2 days, all the more content for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Soak it up. Yeah.
It's time for shout-outs.
Shout at the Discord.
Start us off.
All right, Amy Forsyth, thank you so much for jumping into the Patreon. Heather Sirline, welcome. Hope you find what you want. Daniel Gilbert, thanks so much. And by cursed hands. Well, that sounds dreadful. I'm sorry, sir.
Ominous. Zubats is on this. We didn't even have to put a switchblade to his neck.
No, we didn't. He came here because he wants some.
You want some? I know who else wants some. Axe Wound. Thank you, Axe Wound.
That sounds Jamie like trouble.
Dawson, we appreciate it. And then Arf. Arf came in at $4. Thank you so much, Arf. Or if it's ARF, also thank you.
Excellent.
Also, if you want to send us an email, that's thewholedamnthing13@gmail.com. Of course, Instagram is thewholedamnthing13. Mike, what's the Patreon?
It's The Whole Damn Thing, oddly enough. At Patreon.
Are we on TikTok now?
We are. And guess what the name is?
I hope it's The Whole Damn Thing.
It is. Congrats.
Hey.
Welcome. TikTok, The Whole Damn Thing. We're getting on all the socials. Not Threads yet, but
also
we'll
follow us on Scooby-Doo, where The Whole Damn Thing 13-32 on that, and smash the like button on Zoinkers. That'll help us out a lot. And then Jinky McWinky Works. That's a new one that's coming up there too.
Don't forget Fruzel Nort. Fruzel Nort. We're gonna be The Whole Damn Thing at fruzelnort.com.
If you could leave a review on that, we would appreciate it. And then Crackle Snatch. Also,
Crackle Snatch. Yeah, that's
smash
an upcoming
that like button.
social.
Smash that like button.
Yeah. We also have Fluflort, which is I think that's Scandinavian.
It is. Yeah. It's got that J in there where you don't expect it, but it's right there. So
it's
on that
a silent
one,
J.
We're The Whole Damn Thing. So just keep your eye out for that.
Oh, God. I would never have thought 2 such heavy satanic movies we would laugh so much.
Yeah, well, you never know what you're going to find when you open the junk drawer. I think that's what I've learned. Yeah.
Oh, yes. All right, stay clear of the eggnog. I'll see you later.
Ave Satani Biblios.
The head, the tail, the whole damn thing.
Join us next podcast when we intertwine species and cuckoo. Remember, cuckoo is spelled like cuckoo, so it's not really easy to find. It's C-U, not C-O. Yes, join us next week for the head, the tail, the whole damn thing. The whole damn thing. Merry frickin' Christmas.
And Daggers of Megiddo, this one transfers your Dodgers season tickets. So it'll go to your next of kin. This one here erases your Pornhub account. This one, stick it just above the shoulder. It locks in your cable and internet rate. But you have to do it above the shoulder. If you do it below the shoulder, then you develop a peanut allergy. It's the weirdest thing, really. This one qualifies you for a free iPhone or Samsung tablet. And this last one pre-qualifies you for a Discover card, which is not great. The APR, though, is locked at 6.66%, so I'm proud of that one.
Oh, fuck yeah. Merry Christmas, everybody. Thanks for joining us so far this year. It's been great, and we got much, much more to come. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, however you celebrate, do it with family.
And then have them all listen to this podcast. Do us a favor.
Make sure they sign up.
On Crackety Snoinch.
On ZipperFrutal. You can find us whole damn thing 13 at zipperfrutal.com.
Watch our latest videos on Towhook. Don't forget to leave a hangnail on Zapazoo.
Oh my God.